guys, I'm Chantel with Growing Up Without Borders. If this is your very first video that you are watching, welcome to our channel. We are a family that travels around the world with a goal to visit every single country in the world. And we wanted to bring to you a video today that explains a little bit about what we do when we homeschool our kids, because as you know, you can't travel and have your kids in school at the same time. That just doesn't work. So I'm going to give you a little bit of our story, what we did, what works for us, and hopefully that'll encourage all of you guys who have been suddenly forced into homeschooling literally overnight. As everyone knows, the coronavirus has set everyone into a work at home, teach at home, homeschool environment. And so this is really different for a lot of families who are used to everyone goes their own way in the morning, everyone does their own sports, the moms are running around right, left, and center. Now everyone is at home in the same household, trying to manage living and working and schooling and everything together. So I thought I'd put a little video together for you guys. Hopefully this will encourage you that you can get through it, that it's going to be okay, and just share with you a few nuggets and maybe some of the systems that we use that seem to work for us. So keep in mind, we do not have a conventional lifestyle or schedule like most of you have. Nothing is ever the same. We don't wake up at the same times. We're not in the same time zones. We are not in the same homes. As you can see, like we're in a home right now. This is not our home. I'll share with you a little bit about that after as well. But we're constantly moving. So I always say that we function in our dysfunction, if you will, because there's always moving parts. But that's not to say we don't have somewhat of systems in place that work for us and work for our family. And some of the systems are going to sound really funny to you. Like, for example, we don't use alarm clocks. That maybe not a system, but it's something that works for us in our family because we value sleep. And right now with everything going on, a lot of you guys need to catch up on your sleep and you need to be rested so that your bodies are strong to fight this silly virus that's going around. And so I would suggest not using an alarm clock, and that is probably the very first thing you're going to notice when you're starting to homeschool and you're self-isolating yourselves, is that you're going to be prone and wanting to maybe sleep in a little bit, which is fine. Enjoy your sleep. But I strongly suggest getting up, having a shower, getting ready, getting presented, because if not, you're going to feel sluggish and you're going to feel kind of off. And you probably already do feel off as you're not used to maybe living the way you are right now. So that is important. It all comes down to, still getting ready, still doing your hair, have your breakfast. Don't be completely dysfunctional, right? Not to say that we don't sometimes sleep into like 10 or 12 because of school and time zone differences. Chloe's just grabbing the USB stick. No, I'll use it after just to show them. Oh, perfect. This is the other one. Yeah. Great. I'm going to share with you guys the homeschool systems that we use and such. So you're going to notice that you will have more time, because the first thing you won't have to do is wake up in a frantic and make the lunches and get on the socks and put on the jackets and everything that you're used to doing on a normal basis just to get them out on time. I remember those days and they were crazy, and I don't ever want to go back to that. But so that'll probably be the first thing you're going to notice, is that difference there. The other thing is you're going to be able to make nice home-cooked meals at home, which is amazing. Kids love that, and that's one thing we take for granted maybe, is that we don't have to have lunch made, meals on the go all the time. The other thing that is important when you're trying to homeschool is setting up somewhat of a minimal schedule. So we try to do most of our homeschooling when we are in the morning hours, when we're productive. Now, for those of you who are working from home, it might be a little different. So for me, I am very much productive in the morning, and I try to wake up before the kids so that I can get as much done, usually in the morning times before they're awake, or late at night. So it's like those times where you're not going to be interrupted. that might be a big challenge for all of you guys who are just trying, because you're going to find the kids are asking you questions, and then your husband's asking you a question, and you'll be like, too many squirrels, I just need to focus on what I'm doing. One thing that's helped me with that is writing my top things I need to get done for the day. I try to keep it to 5, and I don't deviate from those things. So when there's interruptions and stuff, I'm like, no, this has to get done, then we do all the other things afterwards. So that's a little tip that you can maybe use if you're trying to manage working from home now and doing everything else. Just write down what's your major things that need to get done, do only that, and then everything else will trickle in and get done, and you'll find yourself way more productive. I call that my 9 before 11, sorry, my 5 before 11. So my 5 things I'm going to do before 11. Does it always happen that way? Of course not, but I try to stick to that. So all right, let's talk a little bit about, for those of you who are forced into homeschool, you might be wondering, and especially if you're watching from European countries, why do people homeschool in the first place? Like, why does anyone want to do that? So in the United States and maybe other countries, not all school systems are the same. And that meaning that some people want maybe a bit of a higher education for their kids, and it's not always equal in all the different states and cities. It really depends. Each school is different. And so a lot of people opt out from sending their kids to school and choose to homeschool so that they have a better education. I know that sounds bizarre for a lot of Europeans watching, but that's just the way it is in a lot of countries. All school systems aren't equal. The other reason people tend to homeschool sometimes is just for socialization challenges. Some children have disabilities or learning disabilities, and they just can't function in a normal school system, and the parents want to choose them out, and there's all different kinds of reasons. This will be a big test though on the world, right? This is like the eyes are basically on this whole new structure. It's going to be really interesting to see, especially in countries like Germany, and in certain cantons, for example, in Switzerland, it's flat out illegal to homeschool your kids. So this is going to be a real test to see how is it going to work? How are the teachers going to, communicate with the kids? And I'm really excited to see how it's all going to plan out. And for those of you who've ever wondered, what would it be like to homeschool, and can I test the waters, if you will. Well, this is a perfect trial grounds for you. So make it fun, make it exciting for everyone, and look at it as a test that you're doing right now. So let's get into, why we started homeschooling. So why did we homeschool in the first place? We were somewhat forced into it. If I back up our story, we left Canada. We were living in Canada, and Chloe was only 4 weeks old at the time, and we thought we would go to Florida for a little bit of a somewhat longer extended trip. And we did back and forth for on and off 6 years, Florida, Canada. And we had them out of school and then in school. And so I was somewhat homeschooling, but it was very much the basics of like yellow, red, green, 1, 2, 3, like very, minimal stuff. Although that's the years where, the brains are like sponges. And so we somewhat tested the waters then when we were homeschooling. And then in 2013, our family decided to head off on a 5-week holiday. It was supposed to be a 5-week holiday to Europe, and those 5 weeks ended up being 3 months, and now it's been 6 years, and we've kind of made that our base, and we've traveled around the world since then. So we've been to 100 countries as a family, which is crazy. So schooling has turned into the term world schooling, which is a little bit different than homeschooling. Homeschooling, you are at home and you're following a homeschool curriculum. World schooling, you are learning as you travel around the world, meaning you're learning your geography by visiting the countries and visiting the capitals and discovering the rivers and the lands and the mountains and all those different things. You're learning geography by physically being there and digesting it that way, versus homeschooling, you're still learning either through video or books or, the traditional way. Same with history. So for us, for example, we are currently in New Zealand. And just to give you an update with that, New Zealand has not been hit like Europe and, of course, Italy and Spain and all these other countries. And they are not on full lockdown. So we're not restricted, if you will, to go and do things. Everything's still open right now. So we are every time we go to a country, whether it was like in Cambodia when we visited all the temples and such, or here we went to the Antarctica exhibit and center, and we really discovered, you know, what is it like to visit Antarctica and such. And so the girls are learning hands-on the history and the geography as they go. And so the curriculum that we're following is still a physical curriculum, but we've taken out and omitted certain subjects that we're doing as a world school project. So there's different things. Please comment down below too if any one of you fully understands the term unschooling, because this one, unschooling, is for those parents who want their children to somewhat decide what they want to learn. And they, of course, there's a lot of guidance, I'm sure, from there, but there's a big gap in between what is unschooling and following a curriculum. Like I still really fully believe the children need a certain curriculum when it comes to certain subjects, because if it were up to my kids, there would be a lot more TikTok and a lot more maybe Instagram and YouTube videos than there should be, right? Because of course kids are kids, they get distracted and they want to do fun things versus learning. That makes sense. So okay, so this is basically why we decided to homeschool. So we were taking them in and out of school. We did put them in the school system in Switzerland for 2 full years, and it was great. They learned French, but there came a point when we were told by the directors, basically, you are no longer allowed to take your kids out of school. And so we decided then that is the time we are going to choose to homeschool so that we can still have the freedom to travel and create really cool videos on YouTube for you guys. So that's what we did. So this is year 3, if you can imagine, of homeschooling. It's going really well. The very first time we set off on an adventure was with a whole bunch of books and curriculum, like heavy stuff. So we had like a whole suitcase, if you can imagine, of just books and everything. And that was crazy because we were lugging it around all of South America, and it was really heavy and challenging. And so we were looking for a solution. Like, I didn't want to have to carry around books and pull out books and put in books and all that. It was just crazy. And so I went to, I talked to a lot of moms and different things like that, but I also went to a homeschool conference, which was in Florida. And for those of you outside of the United States, it's hard to imagine, but the conferences that they have for homeschoolers in America and the diversity of options that are out there is phenomenal. You can choose so many different curriculums, and you can meet the people behind the curriculums and learn about them all in one room. It was just massive, but it was really cool to get an idea, and I wish they had it in all the different languages, because I know a lot of people maybe in the Portuguese countries or Spanish countries or French countries, it's not always accessible what they have in the English language. But man, oh man, it was amazing. So all that to say, we chose one company already 3 years ago, and we used the online version. And so it's called Monarch is the online version, and I'm going to put links below. And that was great, except for when we were visiting certain countries in Africa mainly, and other different countries, even in Central America. Sometimes it was a challenge to be connected to the internet, and that meant the girls had a lot of downtime where they literally could not do any schoolwork. And so that wasn't the greatest option for us, but they do offer the same curriculum, but on a USB. So with this USB stick, the girls literally plug it into their computer and they have the whole curriculum. And what I love about it is that you can do the setup and all the different curriculum preparation, if you will, from the computer. I don't have to sit there and spend hours and hours of planning out what they should learn and when. It literally auto programs it based on your start date and your end date. You can take out certain days for holidays. And then the best is that I'm not the teacher, because I had to find a system that would work for my work schedule and my ability time-wise to focus on them. So they literally do the curriculum like she's doing right there, and they follow it where they read a few pages and then they answer the questions. And I would say about 85% of it is auto-graded. So again, that saves me time from having to do that. So it works for our family and our travel and the ability to be functional and moving like that. And then, like I said, you can take on or off subjects or even chapters of a subject. So it's really flexible that way. So it works for us. I'm going to put the links below for you to check that out. Some of the different systems that we've been using when it comes to languages. So for example, Chloe has to be learning German. She's using Duolingo, and then she's also using a curriculum that I found out of Switzerland called Biceps. That curriculum there is a little small subscription that you pay monthly or yearly, and you have access to a lot of the support in French, math, German, and it's all in French as the basis. So they have videos in there, and it's just really good as well. Then what I do for support, because sometimes I'll see that the girls aren't fully getting their subject that they've done, and so then we hop over to Khan Academy. Khan Academy is completely free, and I was mind boggled by how many people in different countries do not know about Khan Academy or even Duolingo. We take it for granted that we know some of these things, but in many countries, and if you're watching out there, here's some great resources that are free. So Khan Academy is one. It has a lot of math and the sciences, and it's all video and then questions. So this is a great learning tool. You do need the internet and of course a computer. The other one was from Quebec, and it's called Allo Prof. Allo is like French, like for hello, but A-L-L-O. Again, I'll link it below. That's also a great resource that we sometimes use for conjugation and verbs and such. So those are the main ones that we're using. If you guys have other ones that you find are great, please comment below for everybody to also get knowledge. The other thing that is quite important for you guys to do, if you can, again, our family is dysfunctional in the sense that sometimes we are in and out of hotels, buses, planes, and everything like that. So our workstation isn't always in one spot. So the only bad thing about working on a computer is if you don't have the proper desk.
I got desk.
You got the desk.
Yes.
If I could suggest to you one thing, it is get a correct workstation for everyone that you have at home so that everyone has their little space to work in their little environment. We have these little stands, I don't know if you can see it behind me, that Chloe's using, and basically it pops the laptop up and it folds up really nice and portable. But this is great for when you're traveling, because then you get a proper workstation and you're not kind of hunched over. So this is a great thing to have. The other thing is like in our case, it's our reality and perception versus reality is not always the case. So the girls are sometimes doing school off of a bed, on the floor, on a bus, on a plane, like all over the place. But we just do with what we can. But having a proper workstation is always good, because then you kind of get into that mode of work. The other thing, if you guys are looking to start up traveling again once everything calms down and becomes, safe to be able to move around again, if you don't want to go internationally and you just want to go domestically, we use a website called Home Exchange, and that allows us to move around and exchange homes with many families. The community is phenomenal. The community of people that are using Home Exchange, a lot of people are very open in sharing, like we are right now in a Home Exchange, and it allows us to have things like a kitchen and all the different things, like just small things like spices that you would normally not have access to in an Airbnb, and it allows you to travel very affordably because you're changing either points or exchanging homes. So it's fantastic. I'm also putting the link below to that if you're interested, but it's a great way if you want to start back up traveling when things get better and become safe again to move around. So all right, so I hope this video has been helpful to you guys. I hope some of the different things in here you'll be able to apply. And mainly, we just hope that you guys are safe wherever you are, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.